One of the best things about our little RV is that we can impose on friends and family without being too much of an imposition. We fit almost anywhere and we don't require a bed or meals. The next stop in our journey was just north of Phoenix in an RV park called Pioneer Park. My oldest brother Dick and his wife Stephanie have been escaping their cold Colorado winters for the past 3 years. They love their little community and invited us to stop in for a few days on our journey east. And of course, we got the personal escort to his spot. The park management was nice to let us park next to his fifth wheel, and we had fun catching up and reminiscing about growing up in a family of 6 kids, camping trips in the family tent trailer, and sharing gadgets. Yes, he likes gadgets as much as I do, and he couldn't wait to show me his new Cobb oven.
Okay, we've got the Rollo table set up, and we have the Cobb. Pardon?
Who makes the Rollo table?
It's Camp Specialties up in Veradale, Spokane, Washington.
And who is it?
It's Dave Cook, who happens to be our brother. This is made, I believe, in South Africa, and it's imported into the U.S., and it's advertised as a complete barbecue in a bag. So we'll open it up here. You have to kind of remember the order it goes together, or it won't go back together.
Man,
That's a fry pan. Here's a grill that can be used upside down or right side up. Here's another frying pan for pancakes, eggs. This is the heat diffuser. Here's the top. So I'm going to take this out of the bag. And what makes this barbecue so amazing is you can cook with it on this plastic table. And I've been told it's the approved in the U.S. to be used in any kind of a fire danger classification in our national forests, because all the heat is right down in this little pit. It is a cob made out of coconut husk, and you can use just plain bits of charcoal in here, but not briquettes. Yeah, this has to go in the cage there. So that goes together like that. So our pork chops will go on here, then this will go on here, and it's cooking.
It's called a Cobb barbecue, and it's so cool on the outside. Although it's cooking right now, you can pick it up.
Well, no, you can pick it up from down here.
Yeah. You can move the whole thing away.
And you're cooking pork chops on it right now?
Uh-huh.
3?
And potatoes.
And potatoes.
Are still in.
Potatoes, and then we're going to cook some vegetables.
Wow.
I say we. I have nothing to do with this.
No,
Stephanie
no,
did.
we're consulting.
Yeah.
Let me get our
I'm just providing the meat thermometer.
spatula here.
This table is kind of clever because the legs and support bars go inside this bag, but when you're not using the bag, then it hangs down and you can put napkins, utensils, condiments in there while you're eating. So we're going to take it apart by unscrewing these legs. And you can see they're 5/16 coarse thread bolts. And then we just take, well, we'll take this off first. Just unscrew it. The table itself weighs about 10 pounds. These are plywood slats sealed in vinyl, and they'll actually float. So you see a lot of these on river trips, and anytime people are taking folks into the wild. So we put this in here. Doesn't matter what order. Then we just wind it up. We bring the strap around. Ready to go, roll a table.
The park has a lot of open space around it, so John and I took off on our e-bikes and explored the desert. Before we left, we stopped by to see Al and Ingrid, full-timers we had met last winter at Lost Dutchman State Park. Some of you may know Ingrid because of her blog, Live, Laugh, RV. Ingrid agreed to come on camera for an interview.
Okay, we are here in just north of Phoenix, where my brother has an RV, and it's at an RV park called Pioneer. And last year he introduced us to one of their neighbors. Her name is Ingrid, and she has a wonderful blog that I wanted to introduce you guys to, in case you're interested. She has great resources there, great writing, great photography.
Thank you
You're
very
probably
much.
more a photographer than
Right.
anything, right? So I thought I'd talk to her kind of about what she's doing and how they came to be full-timers. And so this is Ingrid. So let's start with you. Tell us how you came to start your blog.
My mother had passed away in 2011, and going through a lot of their photo albums, and even though my dad was still alive, he just couldn't remember. My mom was the one who logged the trips and everything. So my husband and I were getting ready to go on a 6-week road trip, and I decided, I want to document this so we now know exactly where we've been, where we stayed, things like that, and that's how the blog came to be. So it was more just a journal for myself, personal journal, and then it just kind of evolved from there, and it turned into a whole community. And
Yeah, so how many followers do you have?
close
do you know?
about 4,000.
Yeah. Or as we've learned from YouTube, it really doesn't matter how many followers.
it's-
how many people are actually watching or reading
Right.
what you're doing.
It's the
That's what
community
counts.
and the engagement.
Yeah.
And we've met some wonderful people, made great friendships through the blog.
Yeah, and you have, as I noticed today, this morning's blog was about Arizona, really.
Right.
And how to see great views and saguaros and all of that. So the website or the blog is Live, Laugh, RV.
.net or .com.
Yeah.
Either one gets you there.
And you have also just recently started doing some YouTube videos. You have
yes,
3.
3, but that doesn't seem to be my forte just yet.
Well, no,
So,
everybody.
you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Moreover, you have to make a lot of bad video before you become,
And trust
which
me,
I'm still working on.
I still have about 3 or 4 more in the works that I haven't put live.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever go live.
Well, sometimes you just have to do it, just to get them up there and get the practice.
Kind of just jump in the
Because
pool.
believe me, I've seen yours, and they're for your first videos, they're good.
Oh, well, thank you.
So people can, and it's also the same name, right?
Right. Live, Laugh, RV.
Live, Laugh, RV on YouTube. And I'll put a link below for that. So maybe you could share with us 3 of your favorite campgrounds in Arizona, since we're here in Arizona.
The Maricopa County park system is phenomenal, and Maricopa County encompasses Phoenix, Arizona, as well as the surrounding suburbs, I guess you would call it. Cave Creek Regional Park, wonderful. That's at the far north end of Phoenix. Then there's also McDowell Mountain, and that's really popular with people that mountain bike. And so they've got some phenomenal trails over there. And then my other favorite is Lost Dutchman State Park, and that's on the far East Valley near Apache Junction.
And that's where we met you last year.
Exactly, that's where we went on the hike.
And they have a number of things to do there. They have a museum. There's that, what do they call that kind of town across the way?
Gold Canyon Camp or something. It was a former gold mining town, and,
Right.
and a lot of the buildings are authentic. They're the real things that were built in the late 1800s.
And it's free.
It's free to walk around, and then they charge for some of the cute little attractions.
Yeah, we went
and-
into one of the mines, but it's,
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun, and we love Lost Dutchman. And some of your favorite hikes around
Well,
area?
Lost Dutchman. That's where I actually managed to get my husband into hiking.
Oh.
Because he just, well, he was in the military. And so hiking to him was something that he had to do, with the pack and everything. So he wasn't into just this strolling around, kind of stuff. So that's where he kind of embraced it. Now I get him out on the trails with me.
I often get questions from guys wanting to know how can they get their wives or significant others into RVing. And who among the two of you, who was the first one to embrace the lifestyle?
Me. My parents were, I grew up tent camping when I was little. Then we moved up to a pop-up. And then later when I was a teenager, my parents got a motorhome. And then my parents were snowbirds once they retired. And so I kind of grew up around it. And as a matter of fact, I actually owned my own tent when my husband met me. So then we used to go backpacking and canoeing up in northern Minnesota.
Well, now this is interesting because your husband was a pilot and you were a flight attendant.
That's how we met.
And you had a tent.
And I had a tent, right. Now, mind you, and then let me tell you where we honeymooned. We could have flown anywhere in the world for pennies and get, discounts on hotels, things like that. But we spent half our life in hotels and dining out. And so when it came time for us to go on our honeymoon, we wanted nothing to do with that. So we rented a cabin up in Western Ontario and took the 2-day drive from the Chicago suburbs up through International Falls, Minnesota, and into Canada, and had a cabin. And
that kind of sounds like our honeymoon. We went backpacking on our honeymoon in the Colorado Rockies.
There you go, something similar.
Yeah.
And you just so doing this kind of outdoor activity is just something he and I have always enjoyed doing. And
you've been doing this now you've been living full time for 6 years?
Yeah, we're in our 7th year.
And at this park too, right?
No, we kind of would spend, because both our children live here in Phoenix, we've always kind of come through the valley. Now, last winter was our first time that we actually spent 6 months in one spot in the last 6 years. Prior to that, we would do a month here, a few weeks there, a month there. We would literally, move around. But now, we're starting to slow down.
John and I have gotten particularly interested in the overlanding, that whole scene, and I think you kind of have gotten an interest in that.
It's a topic that.
Wait. Let me back up for a second. Especially since we saw KYD go from their 43-foot fifth wheel. Now they're going to be in a Rubicon towing a teardrop trailer. So we were laughing about that yesterday.
Yeah.
But.
I'm trying to convince my husband to get another truck camper. And we're not getting rid of the fifth wheel. We'll just keep the fifth wheel parked here in Phoenix. And then the truck camper would be kind of our summer cabin. I'm still working on that because there's places I would just love to go that we've discovered in southern Utah, northern Arizona, in Colorado. And with the fifth wheel, we're too big to get into some of these places. And, even when we do try to fit in some of those places, we've done a little bit of damage to the fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sounds ideal. I also think that you'll win.
You think?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
You're gonna go to the Flagstaff Overland Expo next year.
I'm gonna go check it out and convince him.
Right.
And right now, we do split the driving. I do hook up the fifth wheel. I drive it. There's a lot of things I do. I'm just not good at backing it up. So I don't back it up. I think if we could get a truck camper and I did most of the driving and all of that, he'd just sit in the next, wherever you want to go, honey.
He'd sit in the co-pilot seat.
He'd sit in the co-pilot seat and let me be the captain, and it's your leg, you go right ahead. And
that sounds great.
As long as I don't get us into trouble, which
Summer.
The summers are kind of on a whim. Sometimes we work camp, which we've worked camp before up in Idaho, and so that took us up there. Other times we'll go back to Colorado. We called Colorado home for over 20 years. Last summer, we went up to Wisconsin and stayed on my sister-in-law's property. And she and her husband have lakefront property. And we just had a great time. And we were kind of back in our element, being back in the Midwest, which is, we grew up in the Midwest.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you've got it down, and I encourage everyone to check out Ingrid's blog, and occasionally you see her husband Al.
Every now and then when I can get him on camera.
And so thank you very much.
You're
It was great to
welcome.
meet you.
Thank you.
And I've just finished editing tomorrow's video, and it's kind of down to the wire. I don't like to be this close to the time that the video is supposed to go up. It feels like that research paper that's due the next day and you waited too long. But that's kind of the way it is. And I thought I'd talk maybe more along this trip about making YouTube videos. I know a lot of people are interested in that. And there are a lot of people that I follow that I wish they would talk a little bit more about what it entails and how much it interferes with the way they travel, or those kinds of things that I thought might be of interest to some of you. And I want to mention, so I've just finished this. It's only a 15-minute video. But of course it's quite large. It's 16 gigs. So what I do, because it's in a .movie file, I convert it to an MP4 that will upload faster to YouTube, that sort of thing. So those are the kinds of things you have to think about. I'm going to get the MiFi out and hopefully upload it via our MiFi. And by converting this from a .mov to an MP4, hopefully it'll take it down to a fraction of the 16 gigs that it started with. And then of course it's on to the next video, and what are you going to do? And it's this constant churning of trying to figure out, okay, what's this, what kind of a story are you going to tell? If you're a good storyteller. I'm not, but it's just it's a lot of work, and you shouldn't underestimate that. But at the same time, I really encourage people to do YouTube because it documents your travel, and something you can look back on, your kids can look at, your grandkids, and you can remember these journeys. So as much as it can be a real pain in the rear end sometimes, I think that if you can put up with learning it, because it takes a long time to learn the process, I think you might enjoy it, and at least be able to adapt it to use for other things besides just your travels. Maybe it's your family history, things like that. So I just thought I would mention that, and hopefully the MiFi will work and we won't have any issues. If I do have issues, I'll just post it a day late. When you haven't done enough planning or thinking, you get what's called stuck in the edit, and those are the most painful videos to produce, because you're trying to find a way out of this mass of clips that you've got between all these different cameras that we have, which is a mistake on my part, but I'm still learning. So that's my advice for anybody who's thinking about doing YouTube videos. I'm happy to offer you any, you can make a comment, ask me questions. I'm happy to help and share what I've learned so that you maybe don't make the same mistakes that I made. And so there you go.